As a good Christian, whenever you're starting a business, taking a job offer, or changing jobs, you must consider whether they are businesses, jobs that a Christian should do or should not do. Due to the larger number of job opportunities that were available, choosing a job as a Christian was easier in earlier generations. But today, it is quite different, especially in light of the significant advancements brought about by science and technology. Unemployment is on the increase, and many are jobless or out of work. Thus, there is a high level of desperation, and the issue of morality or faith is almost non-existent in choosing a job or career path these days. In applying for or taking up any business job, a Christian has to consider whether the business or job will force them to engage in behavior that is against the principles of the Word of God or the law of the land. Another option is to consider what the Bible has to say about where and how we work. You will agree that the Bible's entire message is centered on loving God, yourself, and loving others. As Christians, our goal is not just to amass as much wealth as possible through any means, regardless of the consequences, but to also live a life pleasing to God and beneficial to humanity. Here are 10 businesses or jobs that Christians should not get involved in. 1. Working in beer parlor or as bartender. You should be aware that working in a beer hall is not expressly forbidden in the Bible. However, several biblical passages suggest that Christians should abstain from alcohol use and related professions. This makes working in the beer hall rank in the list of jobs that a Christian should not do. Whether as an employee or a business owner, it is not advisable to venture into this. Here is why. Some vices that Christians should abstain from are listed by Paul in 1 Corinthians 6, 9-11, NIV. Do you not realize that the wicked will not have access to God's kingdom? Do not be fooled. Those who practice sexual immorality, idolaters, adulterers, men who have sex with men or adulteresses, will not inherit God's kingdom. One of these sins is intoxication, which includes drinking alcohol, 1 Timothy 5:23. You can always find drunks, prostitutes, and gamblers there, and it also houses a variety of crooks who will extend a hand of friendship. Sincerely speaking, you can't ignore them all. Your belief in the living God is now being eroded by the process of mixing with them. 1 Timothy 3:8 and Titus 2 are two other verses that forbid excessive wine consumption and intoxication. Due to these commands, Christians are unable to make money from the sale or provision of alcoholic beverages without transgressing God's law. Another reason why working in a beer parlor is one of the business's jobs that a Christian should not do is that Jesus frowns at misleading people according to Matthew 18:6. If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Would you rather surround yourself with ungodly people in an ungodly environment than in a place of decency and decorum? Psalms 1:1-3. 2. Stripper. Next on our list of businesses and jobs that a Christian should not do is the stripper's business. As stated in 1 John 2:16, attending a strip club is wrong because it satisfies the lust of the body. Any action, word, or thought that falls short of the glory of God, Romans 3:23, is considered a sin. Every human being is born with a propensity to sin because of Adam's fall in the Garden of Eden, Genesis 3:11, Romans 5:12. We have a natural tendency to want to please ourselves, disobey God's laws, and indulge in irrational desires. We are falling short of God's glory whenever we misuse or abuse God's plan. God intended sexuality to be a positive aspect of human existence rather than a negative one. God gave us sexuality as a gift, and He has established rules for how to enjoy it in marriage, Hebrews 13:4, 1 Corinthians 6:18. Strip clubs encourage sexual expression that is outside of God's will, transforming a good thing He gave into a bad thing. This is another reason the stripper's business is among the businesses or jobs that a Christian should not do. 3. Casino or gambling house. Next on our list of businesses and jobs that a Christian should not do is launching a casino or gambling house. The Bible forbids gambling to a great extent. Therefore, a sincere Christian has no place whatsoever in this endeavor. The Bible warns us against the compulsion to strike it rich. As 1 Timothy 6:9-10 says, "Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. When you create a platform or a business that will rip people off their money and render them bankrupt or frustrated, then you are not in the will of God. Money is a master, and Jesus Christ said this, "You cannot serve God and mammon." This tells us that money plays a major role in the affairs of people, and gamblers are slaves to money. Do not lead them to their destruction by creating such a business. 4. Internet fraud. Being an upright Christian and engaging in online fraud is immoral in God's eyes. You do not in any way grow closer to God by this behavior. You are far away. No matter how much you spend in your local church as a Yahoo boy or girl, you are stealing. And that is not the will of God. Fraud is simply taking what doesn't belong to you, and the Bible at several places, even beginning from the 10 Commandments, frowns at stealing regardless of what form it takes. There is no point exploring deeply into this point because it is obvious enough that fraud is ungodly, and you must stay away from it as a child of God. However, we will cover it even more later in the coming videos. 5. Pornography dating sites business. We also have on our list the pornography dating business as one of the businesses that a Christian should not do. As we all know that pornography dating site business gratifies the flesh, and it can also encourage sinful living. A devout Christian must avoid being discovered launching a pornographic dating site or using it as a source of income. This is due to the addiction that it may develop in some people. Plus, if you do this, you run the risk of leading a spiritual life that is diluted. Pornography viewing and the industry that supports it are both evil. Following the Bible, fornication, having feelings of lust for someone, and even wanting someone other than your spouse are sins. However, there is evidence that watching pornography regularly has long-term detrimental impacts on a person's life. It is human nature to want to please ourselves, not minding if it is right or not, thereby breaking God's rules and giving in to unreasonable desires. Every time we mistreat or misapply God's design, we fall short of God's glory. 6. Human trafficking business. The next on our list of businesses that a Christian should not do is human trafficking business. First, what is human trafficking? Human trafficking is defined as a form of contemporary slavery in which traffickers use force, deceit, or coercion to maintain control over victims and force them to perform labor services or engage in commercial sex acts. God sent His only Son, Jesus Christ, to deliver us from the slavery of sin. That's how much He paid for redeeming us from captivity and bondage. So there is no doubt God frowns at this act. According to Psalm 82, 3, 4, give justice to the poor and the orphan. Uphold the rights of the oppressed and the destitute. Rescue the poor and helpless. Deliver them from the grasp of evil people. As Christians, we must never be involved in any form of human trafficking as it is against the will of God and the law of the land as well. 7. Stolen goods business. A true Christian should not associate himself or herself with robbers, not to talk of selling the goods gotten from their evil outing. Carrying on stolen goods business is more like encouraging robbers to steal from people knowing that they have a buyer or marketer. The Bible explains more in Leviticus 6, 1, 7 when the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "If anyone sins and commits a breach of faith against the Lord by deceiving his neighbor in a matter of deposit or security, or through robbery, or if he has oppressed his neighbor or has found something lost and lied about it, swearing falsely, in any of all the things that people do and sin thereby. If he has sinned and has realized his guilt and will restore what he took by robbery, or what he got by oppression, or the deposit that was committed to him, or the lost thing that he found, or anything about which he has sworn falsely, he shall restore it in full, and shall add a fifth to it, and give it to him to whom it belongs on the day he realizes his guilt. Do not engage in the business of selling stolen products. This is highly ungodly and not a good virtue for a Christian. 8. Mercenary or assassins. No matter how you choose to read the 10 Commandments, we should not be complicit in murdering, even worse, for financial purposes. However, Jesus reaffirms what the Old Testament says in Exodus 20:13, "You shall not murder." In Matthew 5:21-22, "You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, 'You shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment.' But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, is answerable to the court. And anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. The scriptures cannot be disputed. Christians should never work as assassins or mercenaries. It is against God and humanity. 9. Drug-dealing business. It is worthy of note that dealing in illicit substances can be a fast way to make a lot of money, just like becoming a prostitute or an exhibitionist. However, Christians should refrain from working in this field, not only because it is illegal, but because it can draw many people away from God. There is no doubt that the drug-dealing business is not good for anyone, especially consumers. Take a look at those who use or traffic drugs. It damages their lives completely. Do not be involved in any business that will ruin the lives of others while you make a ton of money from it. It is ungodly and illegal. And finally, 10. Sex workers or prostitution. Prostitution is usually referred to as the oldest profession. Indeed, women have always used it as a popular means of generating income, even in the days of the Bible. Prostitution is morally wrong, according to the Bible. Proverbs 23:27-28 says, "For a prostitute is a deep pit, and a wayward wife is a narrow well. Like a bandit she lies in wait, and multiplies the unfaithful among men." God forbids prostitution because he understands that it is harmful to both men and women as it destroys the spirits and souls in a way that results in both bodily and spiritual death. Prostitution also destroys marriages, families, and ministry. God wants us to remain blameless and use our bodies as instruments for his benefit and glory. Thus, you are on the wrong path as a Christian if your business idea is to hire sex workers and prostitutes for profit. Yes, it might look lucrative, but the truth is that you will be kicking against your faith. There is no doubt when you engage in this type of business, you inevitably forfeit your relationship with God. It is contradictory for you to profess Jesus and be among the sex workers or even employ sex workers. In conclusion, if your job involves sexual nudity or public intoxication, requires you to lie or cheat for your company, or otherwise makes you uncomfortable morally, you should look for another position. It is just like oil and water. Darkness and light are incompatible. At the end of the day, we will all give an account of our stewardship when we see our Maker face to face. May God help us to live according to his will and purpose for our lives. I hope you have learned something from this video. Don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. God bless you. See you in our upcoming uploads.